Welcome to Cadence Rose. We are back with another video. I'm doing another sit down video, but I am feeling a lot better from the last time I saw you guys. Last week I was still recovering from a cold and I'm feeling a lot better, and so I've been easing back into more work that I'm used to doing. So yeah, so I'm coming to you with another video. And this is a fun video because I show you guys a lot of the stuff about my business, and I wanted to give you guys a deeper look into some of the mishaps that have happened behind the scenes. But I just wanted to share with you a list of some mishaps that have happened with the business, just to shed some light on when you have a business or anything. I feel like when you start a new project, you're going to have some problems and hiccups. And I'll just show you guys how I dealt with some of these and what happened, and just kind of like some fun little stories, and you can kind of get to know a little bit more about my business as well, and just some stuff like that. Before we get into that, I wanted to show you guys something cool. I was featured in the Virginia Living magazine recently. The Virginia Living magazine holds a Virginia, like a makers competition, and so I am one of the winners this year and so Cadence Rose is in this magazine, so I think this is just super fun. I just want to keep y'all up to date on some of the cool things that have been happening. Of course, a lot of this is because of you guys. So yeah, this is the 2025 Made in Virginia Awards. So, and then this is this is our lavender salt bars right here, and here I am right here. And so, I know not all of you guys are from Virginia, so I wanted to show you guys if you wanted to look. I did post a thing about this, but this is exciting. I know for some people it might seem small, but any bit of support and extra stuff is super fun for the business, and it's just so important. So, and if you would like to grab a map copy for yourself, if you like magazines, I'll have the link to their website below. And it's like I told my dad, this is like they made it for me. They have the nutcrackers on the front page, which, if you don't know, I love collecting nutcrackers. I'm hoping to give you guys a tour of our Christmas decor in the next couple weeks, so this is exciting. And in the hopefully next couple videos, I can give you guys some more updates on any cool things that are happening. So I just wanted to show you this, and so now let's get into some of the oopsies that have happened behind the scenes at Cadence Rose. So number one was the time a glass bowl blew up in our basement. So we had these Pyrex mixing bowls, these glass mixing bowls, and we later found out that there was a recall for that specific type of bowl, but at the time we didn't know that. And so we were making salves that day, and we put that glass bowl in the microwave, and it was a microwave safe bowl, and we only had it in there for like a minute or two. It wasn't in there for like 15 minutes or something like that. And when we opened the microwave, one of the spots on the glass, the side of the bowl, was like bright orange, and it was like glowing, and it had like it had started to melt in that spot, and it was very hot. And so we were like, I don't know what's happening. So we had to get quite thick things to be able to pick it up and move it, because we wanted it out of the microwave, and it had cooled down and it wasn't doing anything. So we were very lucky because my dad had came down. We were talking to him about it, and we were like, what happened? And he picked it up and was looking at it from looking at the bowl he had picked up over his head, and he put it down and he left. And we were just gonna like make something else in a different bowl, because at that point we're not gonna make salve out of that bowl. Luckily, everybody who was in the basement was a couple of feet away from the bowl, and all of a sudden it sounded like a bomb went off. It just popped. The glass, and it still had the wax in it, it just blew up on our table, and that was one of the moments. There are some moments when you're making products or doing things where you're like, we're gonna be done for today, because that was too much. And so that's what we did. We were like, we're gonna be done for today, because what we were gonna have to do was throw that bowl away and then clean up all of the glass that was on the floor. And at that point, we were just glad that nobody had gotten hurt, because only a couple minutes before, my dad was like holding it up in front of his face, and like, we were done. So we packed up, and of course nobody, it's our basement, our studio, so it was safe for us to just leave it for a little bit. And then the next day we came down and we got rid of that, because, and then we later read that those bowls had been recalled. But also, I know glass does have, you know, it does respond badly to quick temperature changes, but that glass shouldn't have reacted that way just to a little bit of microwave heat. So that was an interesting moment. And now we never made soap in glass bowls, but now we stay away from glass for most things. And so now what we use to melt our wax is in a like stainless steel, it's like a colander with a handle, and you can just set it on a burner and it will heat the wax. This, I don't know where the handle went, but this is what we've started using instead, because this just conducts the heat really well. It melts a lot faster, and of course it's stainless steel, it's not reactive at all. Okay, next, have you guys ever spilled soap before? I have. One time I bumped the mold. In our basement, it's a little unlevel, so I was trying to move a mold and I bumped the table, and it spilled about a cup of soap out of the mold, and it spread so far. When I looked at all the stuff on the floor, I was like, I'm not gonna have enough to fill my mold. It's like I dumped out the whole world. But it just spread up very far, even though I only spilled a little bit. So, and it was soap batter. So I have done that before, and like I said, our basement is a little bit unlevel just because it's an old house, and I wanted to move it to a different table because sometimes the tables are a little bit leaned, and then so the soaps want to set weird in the mold. And I just bumped it and it went everywhere. And it was not fun, because then I need to put more gear on so I can clean the floor, and I need to do all this stuff, and it's very much not fun. So have you guys ever spilled soap before? Because you will know how much it spreads, even if you only spill a little bit. I can't imagine if you spilled a whole slab or a whole bunch. I hope that never happens, but you never know. And third, I've talked about this a lot, about like, be wary of seizing, and I don't say that lightly because we've had this happen. And I've talked about this with certain types of essential oils. So in the beginning, before we started the business, we tried to find a more affordable essential oil, and so it was marketed as an essential oil, but it was at a better price. And we got it, and we were making a 3-colored soap. So we had 3 bowls of different soap colors, and it was like a Christmas soap. It was red, green, white, and we put that essential oil, you put the measurements of essential oils into the 3 measured batches, mixed them a little, and they just hardened. You mix it for a couple seconds and it just hardened completely. It was devastating because, you know, if you make layered soaps or design soaps and you measure each color separately in different bowls, and then it's all gone because it's hard, and it was all just stuck in the bowl. And so we were just like, oh my goodness. And so that's why you talk about using essential oils. You need to find either good quality for price and also good essential oils, because there are some essential oils, they can be good quality, but they're just not well behaved, like rose. We've had this happen with rose essential oil, where we've got it in the mold, but you have to like be really ready. Once you put it in the soap, you have to mix with vigor and you have to work fast. Otherwise, you will not get it in the mold, and you will be having an arm workout because you're going to be scraping, trying to get as much stuff out as possible. So it's a good thing to make sure you do your research on well-behaved essential oils. So we've had our fair share of seizing and acceleration moments, so trust me when I say watch out for some essential oil. Number 4 is, of course, you click the blender and start blending before it's fully submerged. This is another reason why you wear safety gear, because you are human and you make mistakes. And if you live with us or know us personally, you've probably heard us talk about how I'm like one of the most clumsy people on earth. So are the people in my family. We are so clumsy. And sometimes when you're working with soap making and you're in a groove, I've done that a couple of times where you click the button and then before you submerge the blender fully, and so it just splatters everywhere. And that's why you wear safety gear, and that's why you also take your time. And I'm not normally that bad. I always tell my students, when you are blending, do not start blending before you have it submerged, and do not lift your blender up much because it'll just splatter everywhere. And I'm very good about that most of the times, but every now and then you have a moment where you are just clumsy and you're absent-minded. And yeah, okay, now number 5, this is one where a little bit more businessy, and you might have this happen, and this is how I handled it. So you guys know I was sick last year, and I had missed a message from a customer. Facebook does have these weird messaging filters where if it goes to a request, it doesn't notify you. And I was sick, so I wasn't as vigilant at looking through all of my filters. I mostly check my emails and that type of stuff. And so a customer message about wanting to get some soap for a wedding, and I had missed it. And so as soon as I saw it, I flipped out internally. I didn't do anything crazy. I messaged her and I gave her my information and I said I'd love to. I just tried to be as professional as possible. And then she said, we had already picked somebody else, and she didn't seem upset, but just, we had already picked somebody else. And so I thought, I'm glad she doesn't seem upset, but I was upset. I was very upset because for our business, I love to be able to try to answer messages as quickly as possible and try to be on top of things. So also because that will make you get behind if you start letting things wait. And so I felt really bad because also, when you go to somebody for a big event, a special event like a wedding, you don't want to be treated bad. So what I did was I contacted her again and I told her I'd love to send the bride a gift box of soaps and different products. And so I sent her a nice gift box. It had soaps, it had a salve, a soap dish, different stuff like that. And I had I made a note in Canva. It was nice and pretty, saying congrats on the wedding, and I tried to make it very nice and in a pretty presented way. And I sent it, and they seemed to really like it, and she posted it on Facebook and she liked it. And then a couple weeks later, she asked me if I would teach her daughter in a soap class, because she's a local woman. And so I said yeah, and so I was able to teach her daughter at a soap class, and she sat in part of the class, and we got to meet the lady. That was the lady who sent the message, so that ended up ending really well. Even though we didn't make soaps for her wedding, we did end up having a great relationship with her, which that made me really happy, because I do not like letting people down or having something go unfinished or having unhappy customers. And so we tried to go and really make that situation better and make it right. And I feel like it went well, and I'm glad that didn't end badly, and she was very sweet. It went really well, and so that's how we handled that kind of situation. And it definitely wasn't done out of, it was just a mistake on my part. So, but that's how we handled that situation, and it came out really well. So I'm very happy with how that went, and just valuable lessons to learn. So number 6. So you know, I've told you guys about how you have to clean off your soap cutters very quickly after you make salt bars, and I don't say that out of inexperience, because I know, because we've done that. We didn't fully think it through when we started making salt bars in large quantities, that the salt on that metal of the cutters makes them rust and damages them a lot. And we did realize that after a little bit, but by that point it had already like damaged them. So luckily it was just the wires and it wasn't anything crazy. But what you have to do is you have to get new wires, and that's just guitar string. And luckily my dad is like a handy kind of guy, so one day we were just like, could you please replace our wire cutters, their wires? And that was a little bit of a task, because it was our multi-bar cutter, which is like a 10-bar cutter, and then our slab mold and our single bar. He had quite a bit of work to do, but luckily he did it. It's not crazy expensive to replace those wires with the guitar strings, but it's annoying, it's a lot of work, and it's much easier to just maintain and treat your cutters well. So when you make salt bars and you cut them, especially if you have big cutters, you have to clean them quickly. Don't let them sit for hours, because it will rust them bad. And the last one was recent. In August, we went to the Living Traditions Festival in Floyd, and we had a really great time. It was a wonderful market. Unfortunately, my body did not think so. What we were doing at that market, it was a pretty good market. It was from 10 to 5, I think. And what I was doing was I was demoing all day. So I made about a soap an hour, and so that's what I did all day. And I was on my feet, but I had taken all of my medicine for my pots. I had brought nice shoes to help my feet. I had wore cool clothes. I had brought a lot of water, and I was like, this is fine. But I think for some reason that day just wasn't it. I think it might have had to do, I told you guys I had my hives flare up recently, and I think maybe just the combination of the two was probably not the best for everything. At about 11 o'clock, about an hour after the market started, I had my tennis shoes on, and I felt like at the front of my ankle it was hurting. I was like, it was starting to hurt, it was getting itchy, and I was like, I don't know what that is. I wasn't paying attention to it because I was making soap, I was trying to talk to people. And finally, after about 15 minutes, I had a little break, and I looked at my feet, and they were really red around that part on the front of my ankle. And so I kept going a little bit, and then later I took my shoes off. And because they started to just hurt a lot in the front. And then as I kept making my soap with my socks on, I finally took my socks off, because that, even just the elastic around my ankle where the socks were hurting. So I took my socks off, and I looked. By the time 12 came around, my feet were big. They were really swollen, and they were red. So I was just like, oh, this sucks. So I was barefoot that whole day. I couldn't wear shoes, and I was barefoot that whole day just because it was, and I don't want you to worry. I enjoyed that market so much. I didn't want to sit down. I didn't want to take a break or do anything. So I drank a lot of water that day. I took medicine throughout the day, and I wasn't like pushing myself unnecessarily, but I just thought, this is annoying. One of my parents was there helping me because, of course, I'm 16, and I was like, I need to borrow your flip-flops because I can't go to the bathroom barefoot. That's disgusting. So I was at the point where like literally I couldn't wear anything. I was barefoot the whole time, but I did wear flip-flops to the bathroom, and I could be barefoot because we were outside. I was on the grass, and so being barefoot felt great, honestly. And it was not hot that day. We were under a tent, and everything else went really great. After that market, it took maybe like 3 days for the 2 or 3 days for the swelling to go completely down, and even longer for my feet to look normal, because they had swollen to the point where like my feet were like bruised and ugly looking. So, and like I said, I enjoyed it. I didn't, if I needed to have sat down or gone home, my parents would have gotten me and taken me home or something like that. But I had a lot of fun, and it was, you know. So what I'm gonna do after that market, we got compression stockings, because if we do another market where we're gonna possibly be on our feet for a long time, I wanted to prepare better. So that's just a part of, it's kind of a reminder also, like, you have to take care of your body too. If you have health problems, it's a thing to remember. And we definitely take it easy. Those are some things that happened, kind of like little oopsies and mistakes behind the scenes. So I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you kind of get a look at how it can be to run a business. I think some people kind of underestimate how much it can be. Or I know some people, they can look at me and think like, oh, she's just a little girl. It's probably not that serious, but we have put a lot of work in this business, and there's been some real trial to get to where we are. So, you know, and of course for you, it's the thought of don't give up, keep going. Sometimes your morale can get low. Just don't let it get you down. Don't give up. And I hope it can kind of shed light on some of those aspects. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, like and subscribe, comment down below where you're from. I love to see that, and I'll see you guys in the next video.